Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9.11, and of course we're playing as Japan. And just today I got a comment. I think it was, will I play a Black Ice 10 campaign? And I answered I will, as soon as I'm finished with this. And this isn't the only we need more supply routes into here because we're running out of. Okay. As soon as I finish this campaign, I do feel that I owe it to viewers who have been viewing this campaign up until now to bring it, as we've talked about, I know in the past, a logical conclusion, because I don't, in my mind, we haven't either won it or lost it yet. And on that subject, of course, we could debate on when we would know we lost it. You know, one of my, not the only criteria, but one would be all of my fleet sunk and the US actively invading islands. That's sort of what ended my Hearts of Iron 4 Japanese campaign, and part of that was my fault in that I didn't have the fleets always set as the right engagement rules and whatnot. And coming up very soon, later the day, depending, or tomorrow, depending on when what your clock/calendar is. If you're watching this when released, I will be releasing the first of the multiplayer session. It starts out really more of a game of I don't know how not to do a multiplayer game or something, but it gets good, trust me. Towards the second half of the series, as it will be, it gets really good action going on. But even I overheard one of the guys, damn it, the British player or somebody, I forget, comment, I had the fleet was, set to not engage or something like that, and so it wasn't doing right. And so this sort of a thing with the Hearts of Iron 4. It's sort of an awkward button or whatever to push. So yeah, that was sort of my fault to some degree, but at least to where I think I've lost the game, or until we think we've won the game. Now, from what I know of the US AI at this point, it will build out units until it gets to very low manpower. Then it will start building things like ICs and infrastructures almost exclusively until it has a fair amount of manpower again, and then the AI will judge, oh, well, I have lots and lots of ICs, limited amount of manpower, so I'm going to make expensive units that don't require, the expense versus the manpower, meaning they're not going to make cheap militia units. They're going to be making like armored divisions or carriers or whatever. That are sort of, damn the ICs, we got more than we need. It's manpower I'm worried about type of. And it will also, of course, pump out Lend-Lease in the form of ICs to its allies that have manpower. So I suspect, though, if we are winning the game on this, I will attempt an invasion of mainland USA, if at all possible, meaning, invasion ranges, island hopping, whatever it may be. If at all possible, I will attempt an invasion of the US. I suspect it won't get very far, and if we've, cleaned up India, which is coming fairly soon, cleaned up much of Africa, and, I don't really think or plan. I might do a, invade the Soviet Union out here at some point if I have all that other stuff cleaned up. I might do that. Like I've said, I would love to sort of somewhat conclude this series and maybe get a little help or something to try to, or just create an event. I could probably do that, to form a faction for Japan or something. maybe I could do that. And set up a a man in the high castle type Germany versus Germany and Italy versus the Japanese Empire war. I would love to do that, but that sort of requires Germany playing along well enough and at a minimum fully taking down the Soviet Union and Britain, because having, say, Britain and the USA still at war, and then us going at war, it's sort of, I don't know, handicapping the AI. And if I can't defeat the USA because they have too good of armor and armor techs, Germany's going to have super good armor techs, so my Japanese lighter forces won't work. But we can also see down here the Americans are doing, British have sort of got this part of Morocco, and the Americans are getting the rest. I won't be able to, but if I can, quickly for a year or something build up Japanese armored divisions to fight the German, that might be an interesting thing. So but we will see at that possibility. Now there's sort of a mythical, I had planned to do it probably more than 6 months ago, a multiplayer game. There were several technical problems that delayed it, and then on my end, and then just distracted with other things, and I still intend on doing that. That looks like if I were to get that going, that would be with Black Ice 10, and wouldn't necessarily by any means need to wait for this series to be done. That's sort of the thing. It's just how much time do I have to put into all this. Okay, let's continue this. We are attacking Port Moresby. I set up before the start of this. Made sure I had a fair amount of units here. I knew we had some, like, these retreated units here, but then I was somewhat worried about what else they may have. Okay, we've won there. They've lost a destroyer. We're moving around, patrolling. I am sending forces here to pick up some of these units to go after Celebes and at least the 2 ports there. Soviet Union Operation Urania. Pause. What is that? Is that coming after me? Diplomacy? No, that's maybe I don't know what. Quite honestly, I don't know what Operation Uranus was. Diplomacy. I'm just making sure that I'm not at war with them. Good. Okay, I'm not. So I don't know what they decided to do. Sorry. Not familiar with it. Maybe I've heard of it, just not ringing any bells at the moment. I don't know. Okay, twin engine aircraft armament research has advanced. Very good. I think that is here. No, that is here, and it's grayed out. Okay, good. And armored cars designs have upgraded. Very good, and we will end that. And I think we will come down. Oh, do we have a major deficit? No, we don't. Oh, we do try to. Oh, we here that we do need to stop that one. Okay. Back over here, we want to do. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if we have any of these even armored support units. We have a few motorized support units and a bunch of these, and a few of these. So, okay, but armored cars. We have a fair number of armored cars around. And, yes, we killed the Royal Sovereign. Okay, the 8th Area Army. Yeah, let's form this to just give us, an HQ in what, maybe RuPaul? And I had just created this unit. Okay, disband unit. Okay. Let's go to the 8. I'd rather do it with the historical one. And since it will be close enough, we'll see if we can... we had a better leader. Oh, let's put skill. That would get in charge of that other army there. I didn't... the AI picked it. No, not this guy. Yeah, I think it was this guy. Here. And we'll attach him to the same sort of structure. Okay, so there we go. That's good. That's a little bit of a garrison. Not much, but a little bit of garrison force there. And we have some text to put out here. Yeah, we got a bunch of small caliber cannons. A lot of light armor units that could be a little better. I think those will be good options. And I really do want to make a good show for you guys, which in these terms means a okay, we'll see what this is. Execution of Hatsumi Ozaki. The death sentence was enforced and the communist traitor. Okay, this is it was executed today. I think I remember vaguely something about that. So we lose a little bit in dissent, which we don't have any, and hurts relations with the Soviet Union a bit, but he was a traitor, so he's died. Just thinking Soviet Union, and just you know, within an hour before making this, saw somebody retweeting somebody's tweet about Joseph Stalin. You know, some sort of statement like, along the lines of, well, you know, he may not have been a good guy, or, you know, had his faults, or whatever you want to say. You know, I forget about that. Sort of a qualifier in front of Stalin. But he was the most anti-fascist person. He fought he defeated Nazism and you know, saved people from, you know, the Nazis. Blah 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 blah. This, I'm pretty sure, was somebody did a screenshot of this tweet. So yes, it could all be fake news. Meaning somebody somebody could create in Photoshop what looks to be a screenshot of somebody's tweet. But I'm going with, yeah, it's probably the person didn't do it. Definitely is coming from some of the sort of... I follow a bunch of different Twitter accounts, including people like Michael Moore, and a few non-famous lefties on Twitter as well. You know, so I'm following some people from the left, but I'm also following, you know, a bunch of some sort of, you know, rabid MAGA people, you know, rabid Trump supporters, which I am not a rabid Trump supporter. I'm generally a Trump supporter. I did not vote for him. I thought he was not going to be a good president, and I still think a lot of the stuff he says, so don't, oh, you agree with what he says, a lot of crazy stuff. I'm not, but his policies are generally pretty good. But I'm not a rabid supporter, but I do follow. So yes, so some of these people either could be taken in or could be falsifying stuff. But so this person was, you know, sort of listing that, you know, well, he fought Nazism, but of course Nazism isn't social, or isn't fascism, but these people don't know that. And so, but he's the greatest anti-fascist fighter, so we have to acknowledge and I don't know if this person wants to rehabilitate Stalin, and they are a Stalinist who just believes that Stalin was trying to do world socialist revolution, hurrah, and had to do these brutal things to try to achieve it, or whether they're just trying to go, hey, we got to acknowledge everybody who fights fascism. Now, of course, I think fascism is better than communism. That doesn't mean they're both bad. Please, people out there. Sure, I'm not famous enough to have anybody to try to clip my quotes out of context and put out there. But if I ever were to become it, I think fascism is not a good plan. But fascism, which is not Nazism, is nowhere near as bad as communism. Both in its end goal objectives, I vehemently believe that communism is unnatural to the state of man, and so hence being an evil system at its core. So even if you could achieve it, I think it is evil and wrong. I am not one of these people who believe, well, if you just get it right, we could have this communist paradise. Don't you all agree that this would be nice? No. Okay? No. The lack of freedom in communism is evil. And it just is evil. Now you go, oh no, I don't mean Stalinist communism. I mean everybody gets to be free and do what they want communism. Like I could go and earn a lot of money and build a big factory and become rich? No. Well, that isn't the freedom we mean. Why would you need to have the freedom of owning a factory? We want the proletariat to control the factory and share out the wealth equally to everybody. Isn't that fair? No. Because some guy, or woman, well, it doesn't matter. I'm not being gender specific here. But some person just out of school who gets a job at a factory and who knows nothing, maybe who's going to one day become a super great CEO, but he's just starting out, shouldn't be paid the same as somebody who spent their life and are managing the factory, or somebody who came up with the idea of making a toaster or whatever, and developed it and got the toaster working and building it and selling it. He should be making a lot more than everybody else. Income inequality is a good thing, not a bad thing. So long now, and this is where they've gone from being, poor people who are starving and homeless yes, I agree. People should not be starving. People should not be homeless. And no, the first world can't fix everywhere else in the world unless we go in and occupy it and colonize it again. We can't just throw money at it. It just won't change. So each country has to be responsible for their own thing. And so I don't want people to be homeless. I don't want people to be starving. So long as we can achieve that general goal, then I don't care that there are income inequalities, that the manager of the factory makes 500 million times more than the janitor at the factory, so long as the janitor of the factory is not homeless and is well fed. Now, the janitor of the factory may not be able to support a wife and 6 children and have so it's not like, well, living wage for me and my whole family. Well, I don't know about that. There is I know that there are belief systems out there that believe in mass procreation and not to have any birth control. Catholicism, the official Catholicism at least, that you should not be using birth control other than abstinence, and so believe in large families, and so poor people get to have large families. Well, I'm sorry, that is irresponsible. the state or society should not be responsible to feed, house, clothe someone who pumps out babies if they can't afford to take care of them. That doesn't mean that there shouldn't be charities or some, because yeah, society, through charitable means, not through enforced means, society should be able to take care of a few families that do that. But if every poor family out there pumps out the babies as fast as they can, it is unsustainable. But okay, so it is fine that somebody makes 500 times more than somebody else, than they're both working for the same company. That is a good thing. That is a beneficial thing. That is a wondrous thing. Okay, so communism is an evil thing that has been sold to people. It is an ideology of greed, an ideology of jealousy. Okay, and I know I have people on the left that view this channel, and I love you guys viewing the channel. And I know some of you on the left aren't really socialists. They sort of vote for the Democratic Socialists. They sort of want, and I've recently adopted this, is a capitalistic system that supports a bunch of social welfare programs. I can't. The political thinkers and the political, elected officials, and particularly political elected officials, because we can look at Adolf Hitler. He said things to get elected that he didn't believe. And so people will say the things, what they think are acceptable to get elected or to get into power. Again, Lenin did that, calling himself a democratic socialist. And I mean, that, if I'm understanding correctly, he is the one that coins the phrase democratic socialist. And that was at first calling for a milder revolution, because that's all he thought he could sell to the Russian people, and to get support from, I don't know, the middle class or other elites that realized that we needed to have they needed to have an adjustment to the old czarist system, but wouldn't have supported a communist revolution, but would have supported a mild sort of redistribution revolution. So I just don't trust people out there, democratic socialists, whether, because they'll lie, whether they just want a capitalist system that's of some sort. Could be a state capitalist system, like we have in China. Could be a free market capitalist system, like we have in a few other places. Or somewhere in between, sort of like we have in the United States, somewhere between state capitalism and free market capitalism. Capitalist system that supports a social welfare programs. Okay. That's a reasonable, I don't agree with it, but a reasonable thing to want to have, and is different than wanting to have communism. So I know we have some of those, and I know I've talked to a few of our idealistic anarchist communists. That's like saying, I'm a capitalist communist, or I'm an anti-communist communist, or because anarchists, people get to do what they want. So if they want to open up a lemonade stand and sell lemonade or cocaine, they could open up a cocaine stand and sell lots and lots of cocaine and become very, very rich and drive around in very, very expensive cars under an anarchist system. So anarchy, I know there's whole revolutionary ideologies and they seem to follow around, but anarchism and communism requires force, because it requires some sort of enforcement to stop me or other people from making more than somebody else and redistributing it. So it's an incompatibility of concepts. I think you're going to move to there, and you're just going to move up to there. But so I don't know the person's, the idea that everything is to fight fascism and any anti-fascists are somebody to be praised, or they really are trying to get Stalinism acceptable, because Stalinism, as they want to see it, is, justifying Stalinist terror to some, uh, you know, uh, beneficial ultimate goal, and that is, and I don't know whether these people, and if any of you are out there, that I may be talking to, they go, yeah, we need, our, utopianists, of any sort, and of course, a fascist is a utopianist, a National Socialist is a utopianist, a National Socialism utopia is a world without Jews, as well as other things, not just that. That just one facet. So it's not utopianistic for everybody, but it's utopianistic for the right sort of people. And so communism is a utopias system, and so that they believe in fighting for it. And like, again, that I say, I do believe that there are maybe a few of you watching out here, and so believe in killing people. And now, yeah, it could just be soldiers that oppose you, but if we look at practices, it will be putting people into gulags who disagree with you. The police will show up. Maybe you would be a what would be the term? Benevolent communist, and not have gulags that intentionally work their citizens to death and have death camps, and when you find a traitor, you don't take them into the basement of some building and torture them to death. You just simply pleasantly take us to some re-education camps that are humane and pleasant, but keep us in there until you believe that we're re-educated enough to believe your bullshit. But all doing it in nice and most friendly way. Maybe you truly believe that that's what it would be instead of just mass murder. But you are trying to enforce a utopianist system that is, in essence, what you will also criticize vehemently, but not see the irony of the idea of various crusades. And I don't just mean the crusades against the Muslims here, but there were crusades like the Cathar Crusade against the Cathars, various religious crusades trying to create a utopian Christian society in Europe and the rest of the world, and was going to use, the Inquisition to create this utopian society. You'll criticize religion as being bad or evil because they did, not always because of their religious beliefs in a god or in Jesus or Muhammad, or I don't want to make this about any specific religion, but not just about what they believed, but their use of tactics to spread the Inquisition. You will think is evil, but you will support an Inquisition to spread the utopian view of socialism. And you don't seem to get either the irony or the hypocrisy, or maybe you do and are just that evil of a person to know that you're using the same tactics as your supposed enemies. Looks like we're having some Panzer armies show up here, maybe. I don't know. And so, yeah, that's the kind of thing that I saw. I'm just sorry I got off on that because of this, that somehow a person who spreads communism and the probably second most vile, well, maybe the third most vile, maybe the Pol Pot's communism of Cambodia, though it's a smaller scale, but percentage it was more vile than any other viewpoint. It was sort of a complete radical Pol Potist communism, and then you probably have Mao's communism. Then you have Stalinist communism, and sort of orders of worst. So the third worst most is somehow better than fascism, which is much better than communism, and Nazism, which is much worse than fascism. And I totally understand anybody who the Nazis would have viewed as a group to get rid of, to think that Nazism is worse than communism. But looking at it pure level of the amount of human misery it did cause or would cause, I see Nazism just a little better than Stalinism and whatnot. Again, fascism is like a utopian system, most assuredly, but it was never about, that I've ever seen, and I know, again, a lot of the lefties are lumping in National Socialism with it, and I know some of you watching have not watched my long discussions of not National Socialism in my German series, and I probably will pick up the topic in detail when we do another German series, but going into detail of what National Socialism really is. And it is often confused for fascism with added racism, but it is really so much more evil than anything the fascists ever did. And so fascism, I'm not saying fascism is good, it's just of the sort of sometimes called right-wing ideologies. There's definitely left-wing elements to fascism in it. And if you look at right-wing, are revolutionary viewpoints right-wing? Maybe. As part of my, and sometimes I will fall in the standard convention and call it right-wing, but, how you want to look at the things. But that National Socialism is just so much more than fascism on what it wants to do and to the links that it wants to go to. So fascism, yes, is a totalitarian, utopianist ideology, but to want to fight it with communism is like, hey, you have termites in your house. Let's fight the termites in your house. We're going to burn it down. You're going, yeah, my house is going to fall down in a number of years, and all my stuff is still in it. And you're burning it down before I can get my stuff out of it, and I could still live in it, and maybe there's something else we could do to get rid of the termites. Oh no, we have to burn it down. And that's how I feel about communists out there. So yeah, if it's a choice between you communists and the fascists, if that's the only choice you give me, is you must either be a communist or a fascist, I have to be a fascist. Again, as you know, I say it's bad, but if that is the only choice, and this may come back to haunt me someday when the new Google overlords listen to this, but if the only choice is between communism and fascism, if those are your only binary choices, I have to pick the fascist side. It's, don't make me try to choose between the evils of, and trust me as I go into all the evils of National Socialism and communism, they're just both so evil. Now, if you're looking at the viewpoint of many average German citizens, average German soldiers, they still believed in Christianity. They were being indoctrinated into National Socialism. They weren't really National Socialists. So I understand from their viewpoint, fighting the communist Bolsheviks seems like a good idea. Yeah, that is different. I'm not talking about the average German soldier or even the average, because if you look into it, and again, I want to refer you to my German series where I go into this, the average party member who just joined the National Socialist Party are not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the SS ideologies, the dedicated core Nazi individuals who were doing this radical, wacky, they were anti-Christian, vehemently anti-Christ. Hitler was vehemently anti-Christian, and there was for a time to try to infiltrate the German Christian church and pervert it to National Socialism. When that didn't work out, they switched to being just anti-clerical, anti-Christian, both Protestant and Catholic. And there's a whole struggle, which I talk about in there. And so That's what I'm talking about. So, but if you make me choose between fascism and communism, I'm going to have to choose fascism. You know, if that's the only choice. Of course, in real life, that's not the only choice. There are many, many other choices that can be had that aren't that binary choice. So somebody coming out and going, yeah, Stalin was the greatest anti-fascist type fighter there ever was. And so, yeah, you know that guy who really wanted to fight the power of the police state and how the police are? Yeah. Now, of course, he was also a serial killer. But hey, he was fighting the police and the system. But yeah, he was a serial killer. Doesn't, that, I mean, that's what you're telling me. When you, and now I know some of you go, yeah, you're right, gamer. No one in their right mind would praise Stalin as an anti-fascist fighter, and the person may be purely thinking in terms not of what Stalin did at home, or Stalin did, the gulags and all the evil that Stalin did, purely looking at their fighting Hitler thing, and that being praiseworthy. I just, you're going, to me it's like you're praising Jeffrey Dahmer because he worked with black children, or he played with black children. Well, their bodies, but yeah, that is how it sounds to me. And that somebody now can say this out loud. And you just say, well, you said you'd be a fascist over a communist out loud. Yeah, if I had to make the choice. But I say they're both bad. It's sort of like, would you, now, here's another thing. Would you be a Trotskyist or a Stalinist? Communist. I am not, I sort of know the general, the Holodomor, sort of like the Holocaust, but against Ukrainians, the Holodomor. Were the numbers, I forget, I know I have a whole thing on it. Were the numbers as many killed in the Holodomor as killed in the Holocaust? I don't remember, or just almost as much. And that's just sort of the Holodomor, and look it up in Ukraine by Stalin. So we can go into all of the, mass killings and mass evils of Stalin. And since Trotsky was purged fairly early, he did not, do those. Would Trotskyism act, and would he, had he been in power, made more humane choices? Maybe. So maybe I would be as Trotskyist, if I had to choose between Trotsky and Stalin, I would probably choose Trotsky. And if I was looking at world revolutionary leader, and my choices were between Pol Pot and Stalin, I would choose Stalin, because Pol Pot kills a lot fewer people, but he kills literally about a third of his country in Cambodia. And some of the things is, anybody who wears glasses shall be killed, because presumably if you have glasses, you know how to read, and we want to kill everybody who knows how to read, because they have probably read something that is not with, our socialist ideas. So yeah, we can get worse than Stalin. So if I had to choose between Stalin and Pol Pot, I would be choosing Stalin over Pol Pot. But that doesn't mean Stalin is a good anti-fascist. Now, and then this makes me come to, sort of this modern anti-Churchill, and people have been, find out even about the crimes that Churchill was involved with in India and whatnot. And I'm going, yeah, But Churchill saves Western civilization from Hitler. The one man, the one indispensable man that keeps Britain in the war. Because if Britain goes out of the war, that leaves Hitler in power. And I think Hitler versus Stalin, Germany versus Stalin, or Germany versus the Soviet Union, Germany wins on its own. And I think we would still have National Socialism today, and I think it would have spread and gone more. And of course, I don't like and I'm particularly thinking of India and Churchill. Like everything that Churchill did in regards to India, and I'm not defending those actions, but much of Churchill's other actions, not in fighting the war, but in Britain and other places, I like. And generally, I like the British Empire. It has its faults, maybe major ones, but I also see it as very beneficial. I know that is not a popular opinion in modern-day Britain, but I still hold that opinion. So, even the good guys do bad things. And no, it's not. Communists are not the good guys doing bad things. They're the bad guys doing bad things, and doing even worse bad things than other bad guys. So we're fighting a tank battalion type force under a naval officer. Okay, ground attack tactics have advanced. That would be here. Okay, yeah, 43. That's pushing it further, faster. Yeah, we want to continue doing naval training. That one I will push a bit further on, and we've won there, and we've won there. You can see if we look here, we have. I mean, the ICs functionally are not going to be very much, and the resources aren't necessarily much, but we are working on, one, securing them for ourselves, which improves our capabilities, one, and two, it is also looking at supply. It is denying them to the enemy, which is also important. Man, we have to figure out, we're going to have a bunch of bases that aren't useless, but aren't as useful as they would have been some time ago, finally coming online. That's why I should have done them earlier, but that is why I didn't do them earlier, because I sort of didn't think they were going to be done in time. But if I had done them earlier, they probably would have been just done in time enough to be useful, but only briefly. Okay, I'm looking. We've got a lot of carrier air groups and these 4, okay, and okay, yeah, we've got enough there, so that's 8 and 3, okay, that's 11 more. I think that's enough for now. You know, we have a bunch of armored headquarters. Okay, well, okay, I'm looking here at 10 versus 13 roughly. ICs, and we can look here, 9 versus 6. I think, let's look at speed, 6 versus 6. What the hell then is, now some of this speed is dependent upon techs, and they may have improved this on the last thing, but it seems that semi-motorized infantry is the same speed as motorized infantry, and it is 1/3 less the cost. So, and we're looking at medium armor, which is also 6. So, and yes, if you don't realize, because of mechanics, and when you add these, speed becomes an averaging out thing based upon various elements of this. So it and the way this is, and if you dig into this some more, what you can see here is the terrain effects here on this. The different terrains may have greater or lesser penalties here, but it is sort of hard to figure out. Than the penalties here. Movement for jungle is -40. Movement for jungle is -70 here. And it sounds like semi-motorized infantry is doing even better. Okay, well, so we're going to do that with an armored battalion, so that we have the effectiveness of its armor and its piercing. We can see here. Let's take a quick look. Its piercing is 34 versus 24 here, and piercing is 39, so it's a little more piercing on the standard versus 24. So 34 is not as good as 39, but it's a little better. And so we have 33 versus 17 hard attack, and we have 9 versus 21. So yeah, it's not as good, but it is in some ways almost as good or better, depending on. I mean, it has more piercing, so in that way it's better, and has more armor and whatnot. You know, an armored battalion versus trying to do a light armor unit. So I think that's the case that we're going to do. Let's just do artillery. Now anti-tank here, 34. Okay, that won't... heavy anti-tank 50, but that won't help things. The Japanese did use reconnaissance motorcycles and armored cars, but we are not going... We are spending some of the ICs that we can to try to build up. And I think we need to... Don't want to slow this down, so... let's do... Well... 7 armored support versus... Or almost 8 armored support versus 5. I think we'll do motorized support element instead of... motorized support 5 ICs and 120 days. Yeah, I know it's sort of averaged out, but 144 days versus 7, and I did sort of just forget 5. Yeah, I think motorized support. We'll need proper trucks, and we have a headquarters already for it. 15. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do here. We'll do 3 of these, and call these will be called armored divisions once we get. Now remember, we're building Japanese armored divisions. We're looking at these guys, you know, putting it to this Senshai Dai 1 expand with the armor symbol. So this will be sort of like our new version of armor divisions, and then 3 of those would be nice to have. Not necessarily enough to go fight an bunch of American armor, but still it's a decent amount. And there is a slot to maybe move depending on things. Some battle commanders over. Not a bad. This is actually fairly good, because this one here doing pretty well, crossing the river right now, and it has what's its piercing 34. So it has that piercing of 34 with the light armor lack of piercing, 24, but heart attack of 14 and heart attack of 9 combined, so that'll have a fair amount of heart attack. And this was very much designed to fight some of these British Army units that may be over here. Okay, so we're taking out some more Commonwealth units. Let's come up here. We'll pick up these two guys, two divisions, and move them for future invasions, probably down through here if these guys are going to continue to work out in their attack on Port Moresby. Okay, how are you doing? You're doing well, fair at best. Okay, well, when some of these guys get here, they may support that attack. If they get there in enough time. Okay, we're gonna race to here just to see if we can get cut of that. Because that looks like they're gonna get cut off, but it looks like we can swing up forces to free it up, but if they can keep moving and we can supply them in Calcutta. Okay, Hideki Tojo was the general in the Japanese Imperial Japanese Army, a leader of the Taisai Yokusankai, and the 40th Prime Minister of Japan during much of World War II. Yeah, like it says in here, in 44, he loses the prime ministership, but they keep fighting the war because they get stuck too far into it. To that, some historians hold him responsible for the attack on Pearl Harbor. His popularity was high in the early years of the war as the Japanese forces went from one victory to another. However, after the Battle of Midway, the tide of war was turning against Japan. Well, but Japan won the Battle of Midway. What are you talking about, people? This is what? Japan wins the Battle of Midway. That's what they tell everybody, including Tojo. The Navy doesn't admit to the Army that they lose. Oh, we won that battle. I don't know if you understand that, and that was sort of shocking me when I was reading it. The Navy tells the Army, and Tojo faction, who's running the government, oh, we just won this Battle of Midway and, sunk a lot of carriers and whatnot. And yeah, we took some losses, but we're doing good. We're doing real good. We defeated the Americans. No, we didn't, actually, take Midway. We bombed the hell out of it and sunk all their carriers. So it was a victory for us. Yeah. So yeah, no, that's what they were, not just, and this wasn't just telling the, broadcast propaganda or the newspapers, that, so the public they won. This is what they were telling Tojo and the leader, the imperial, as in the emperor, and the other is his imperial advisors, because he had a bunch of advisors around him. Some of them at different times did hold government positions. At other times, they did not have, they weren't minister of this or that, maybe been former, but they were still in, well, we'll say constant contact. It might be weekly or monthly or whatever, but still advising the emperor on what to do. That they were telling these people that they had won that battle. That's like telling Hitler, yeah, we've won Stalingrad. No need to worry. Von Paulus is just too busy to take your phone call of congratulations. Don't worry, mein Führer. We've won the Battle of Stalingrad. What do you want us to do now? I mean, it was literally that type of a thing going on in Japan. And this is their fractured government, is all this stuff. And as some historians hold him responsible for the attack on Pearl Harbor. Yes, in the sense that Tojo forces the Navy into the war with the U.S., and they do that, but he isn't responsible for what the attack is, or how it's carried out, or even responsible for the lack of declaration of war beforehand. He very much is like, hey, we're going to war with America. How do you want to start it, Navy? You know, what do you plan your opening moves? And if your opening moves are to keep ships in Tokyo Harbor, oh, you might be arrested. Oh yeah, and for a while, Yamamoto was kept on his ship by the Navy, because at some points during the situation leading up to World War II, the Army would have arrested him, they believe, you know, if he had gotten off his ships and went anywhere in town. There were Army arrest squads waiting to arrest Yamamoto, because Yamamoto was very much seen and was one of the anti war with America factions. You know, yeah. So, and now, of course, he starts the war with America. It's sort of like, well, if I must, this is the only possible way that the Navy could possibly win. Oh shit! You didn't declare war on him beforehand, because the plan was, you know, to declare war beforehand. You know, about a day before, and then equivalent of Saturday morning, you let the people in Washington D.C. that you're at war, so it goes on to the newspaper headlines on the East Coast of America and wherever else, and Sunday morning, in comes the attack. And so, and we're still going to lose, but this is our best possible chance for a victory, and then you didn't declare war on them because you screwed up, and so we're definitely losing the war. You know, and that's Yamamoto is and this doesn't make him out to be that, oh, I'm sympathetic for him, oh, he's a good guy. No, it's purely he knows militarily Japan is going to lose the war. He is a Japanese patriot. He is going to, because if he doesn't command the Japanese Navy, somebody else will, and so he's going to try to make the best use of it possible. You know, he thinks it's what he's going to do is better than sailing it out of the Japanese harbor and sinking it himself with everybody on board, because that's almost the effect. Sure, they kill some more Americans than that, but ultimately the Japanese could have just, way by to Tokyo, we have explosive charges in all of our holes. We're just going to blow our ships up and wave bye, because that's all how much we're going to actually stop the invasion of the Americans, and he knows this. And so, short of just complete wasting of Japanese naval power, he is trying to do his best. So yeah, but definitely Tojo is responsible for forcing the war to start with America. That is entirely true. Okay, Tojo faced increasing opposition from within the government and the military. To strengthen his position, in February 44, Tojo assumed the office of Chief of Japanese Imperial General Staff. However, after the fall of Saipan, he was forced to resign in July 44. And I realize, it's after July 45 that the war is finally over. So it's, or something like that, I forget. I mean, I'm not good with dates. But it's well into 45 that the war in the Pacific is going on. So yeah, we currently have, which this, I think, should have happened long before now, because as again it says October 41, because it's basically, okay, some of these events don't fire because I play for such short periods of time, and so they just don't kick off. Government. Chief of Staff of the Army. So we're going to lose this guy here, and we'll see how Tojo goes. The way the Japanese government is set up before the war, this goes back to sometime before 1936, is the Minister of War needs to be an army general. an active service army general. And so, and this is sort of part of how Japan has so much chaotic government. And so when the if you will, civil government of Japan, you know, and they've had several very sort of anti-war, pro-generally democratic type reformist system prime ministers. At least one of them is assassinated. That when they start doing things that the Japanese army doesn't like, the Minister of War resigns from the government. Okay, so you need a Minister of War. So then the Prime Minister starts asking generals, hey, General so-and-so, do you want to be Minister of War? No. And so basically they set up to, and they tell them, the army tells the nobody accept this job. So that collapses a government. Since the government can't find a Minister of War, the government collapses. You need to have, whether it's new elections or just simply appoint a new prime minister who will do what we, the army, want to have happen. Can't be an admiral. It must be an army general. And it can't be a civilian. And so the army collapses multiple Japanese governments because the Japanese government does things that the army doesn't like. And so that is, you get the chaos. And what happened a few times leading up to the whole thing, because you do also have a Navy minister and an Army minister below the Minister of War, that you, if you leave your military post when you assume a civilian job, which is normal Western behavior, so you often will have, like famously, the Duke of Wellington, who becomes eventually the British Prime Minister. He still may officially be an army general, but he has no job in the army, meaning he's not chief of staff, he's not head of the army, or have any army commands under him. He may or may not, I don't know if he was ever officially retired, as being an army general, but you could be on the books as being an army general but have no active duty commands. That is sort of the standard. I don't know, like John Kelly, who's leaving chief of staff of the White House, did he retire from the Marine Corps to take over that position, or was he just no longer on active duty, which is sort of slightly different, because he's definitely something of a reserve officer and could be called up to service. But he's supposed to leave any active duty commands, whether that means, a command in the Pentagon or commanding some division out somewhere. Well, if you leave your command, this is what happens to a few of the Army and Navy types that go into different positions of government. You lose your power base, so they quickly fall. That's another aspect. So you keep your power base. So Tojo keeps, at different times, his active duty commands that he's normally having an underling. Now, the underling may be a general. It's not a corporal somewhere, but an underling actually sort of run it. But it's his authority. So he maintains, as well as some of the Navy ministers and other people, maintain active military commands while serving in the government, and that maintains their power base within the Japanese political military hierarchical structure and stuff that's going on, just to give you some sort of the background. And I do know that he also, we gain in unity and lose in dissent. Okay, that's nice. I like that, gain in unity. We are losing a fair amount of unity because of convoy warfare losses. Let's go over here. Okay, since we can change these, we have these. Okay. Starting experience, organizational regain rate, that's really nice. Soft attack, defend. Defense, artillery, practical decay, land organization. Well, I guess we'll leave him in charge of that. That was Chief of Staff, Chief of the Army. Elastic Doctrine. Okay, combat move speed, that's artillery. Practical delays, I haven't been building so much army, so that's hardly useful, but not a bad thing to have. But okay, he's looking alright. Yeah, if we get below 1,000 in manpower, we may go switch back to this guy, because that's a territorial pride we don't really need. Land organization is nice. We may go back to him. I don't know. And because we've captured another few effects down here, we are now a jungle colonizer. So we have more money coming in and less jungle effects. Basically, malaria isn't as bad because we're getting quinine from down here, I think is the whole idea. Okay, assault ship flotillas have advanced. And we're going to stop that. Good to see all of these. Fire control solutions. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, you don't need to keep going there. You will sort of flow down this way, I guess. We'll waste you on that. It's sort of a necessary waste as I see it. Okay. We got these guys down here, brought the Yamato groups down here. I'm going to send them up here because I want to cut off basing for the Allies, and this is one of their both air and sort of naval basing. We'll have the Taiho and their groups out here patrolling, hopefully enough to intercept any unit or naval type units, and we will invade here at the tip, hopefully properly without too much micromanagement. Yeah, that looks good. And now I want, no order. You should have an order. Okay. Air intercept this whole area, so any of the air that comes out of here, go after them if they come after my ships or of any sort of operations. And they're already going after these CAGs. Very, very good. British CAGs. Take them down. Looks like we've won Port Moresby, so we'll... no, you don't move. You defend, because we're gonna crush the last of the defenses there. Okay, you're just now arriving. I was hoping we were... Oh, did I move the wrong damn unit? I moved the wrong damn unit! You may have even saw it. That's the one I wanted to move. You, I want down here to patrol. Damn. I just grabbed the first naval unit and moved it, I think. Yeah, and it happens because I'm talking and thinking of other things. Okay, new industrial zone, which improves our IACs. Obviously, it takes a little bit more manpower and more resources to pump those. And what's really sort of good about this is that it's a percentage of the ICs. So it's not like 6 more ICs. It's 6% of all of that. So that's growing and good, and a good thing. Yeah, we'll let this continue. Go up to 7%. Heavy anti-tank upgrade. Good. That will help our mixed support. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to add more to the piercing, which it would have been nice. But more hard attack is good. Again, if you don't know, and I know many of you know this very well, Piercing and armor values, the way they affect the game is if your piercing is more than the enemy's armor, you get the full effect of your hard attack on their units that are hard. If your piercing is less, and it doesn't matter if it's much over or much less, it's just over or less by 0.1%. So if it's less, then and presumably it's not going to be equal, but I don't know what happens then. Maybe it's equal or less, but if it's less for sure, then if your piercing is less than their heart attack, your heart attack does only half the damage that it would. Then it's full value. So it's still does good, and you can still win battles, but it's not as easy or effective or whatever. It all depends on the math ultimately, but yeah, go take the police station. That would be nice. We could use the police on our side there. Okay, we have made this here. You support that attack. And we're already having a river crossing penalty, but adding a different front should make it go a little bit better. Okay, good. They're going after the right province. Straight in. Okay, well, you support that attack because it's not doing so great. I guess since most of the army is up here, we will continue to push up there. But you get to carry on down to here to make sure that we get occupying places, ports, and other things. Okay, well, what's the terrain? Is it mountainous? Yes. Okay, yeah, because we're maybe sort of creating a pocket and whatnot. Let's start. You support the attack there. What I'm hoping is that it stops this attack and then we can go on the offensive. Or if they continue to exhaust themselves, that's fine too. Okay, armor unit combined arms have advanced. Very good. Yeah, we'll let that continue. We're pushing into so many 43s. Okay. You can choose a mercenary unit to fight for you. Find it waiting at your production queue. Okay. I'm gonna go. We got manpower, and I'd just rather get my own units, I think. Okay, Q. Oh no, not Q. Kokyu Maru was the last merchant to be converted to an armed merchant cruiser by the Japanese Navy during World War II. It was also the heaviest armed with 840mm 5-inch guns, 2 3-inch AA guns, and 4 25mm AA guns, and 2 twin 50 caliber AA guns. And no, those are heavier. 13. It was 12.7 50 caliber, slightly heavier than 50 caliber. Some torpedo tubes and into Kawanishi 7 or E7K2 recon float planes. Yeah, okay. Cool. I would definitely say as the war goes on, the viability of commerce raiding against the Americans becomes less and less useful. It just, we'll attach this to the sub HQ because it's that type of warfare. The US is just massively overly escorting everything, and Q ships really aren't that effective, even though there's a few used in the one John Wayne movie. What I'm thinking, okay, by the Japanese, because the U.S. Is willing to use its torpedoes. So of course we've talked about the torpedo problem. So, but still, we'll go with this so you can see that better. Okay, you're here. Attack there. Well, I've been having a lot of fun playing and ranting and raving about communism and the evils of it, but I think it's time to end this episode. I think it's gone on overly long. I want to thank you all for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. Love hearing from you. So post comments, even tell me why I'm wrong, that Stalin was really good old Uncle Joe and he just misunderstood. I guess I like talking to delusional people. See you next time.